Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Unbalanced with me, Cerys Davage. I hope you're all ready for this episode because today we're welcoming the first guest of 2026. Zoe, hi!
Hi. Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm really happy to have you on because this is not the first time we're chatting. I've been on your podcast, and even though it's come round quick, it was actually a long time, so I'm sure we have a lot to catch up on. But first of all, introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from and what do you do?
So, obviously, my name is Zoe, and I have a podcast called The Should Be Diaries, which is how me and you met, obviously. I started it because I have limb-girdle muscular dystrophy like yourself, and I really just kind of wanted to. It's a bit of a diary, really. Like, I just get a lot of my thoughts and feelings about everything out on my episodes, and luckily people seem to kind of relate to it, which I really enjoy, makes me really happy. I'm from Liverpool, so I'm a northern girl. Um, and yeah, that's a little roundup of me.
Lovely. And what do you do for work?
So I work for Muscular Dystrophy UK. I am their information officer. So I help keep the information on their website, like the health-based stuff, accurate, up to date, and help create new pages around like living with a muscle wasting condition.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. We will obviously get into your podcast a little bit later, but first let's get to know you and your LGMD. Obviously, you have the same condition, but a very different subtype, don't you?
Yeah, I do. So I have 1B as a subtype, which yeah, it's quite a strange one. I mean, limb-girdle is quite a funny variety of conditions. Everybody is so affected in quite different ways, but yeah, 1B seems to be a little bit of a nuisance in a lot of ways.
Tell us a bit about how you got diagnosed and how you're affected.
So, oh gosh, I start. Where do we start? I began having problems with walking when I was about 4. I started as a toe walker, which can be quite common for a lot of children. It doesn't always mean that there's something really wrong. And they thought that they might grow out of it, so they waited a little bit. But by the age of 7 or 8, it was quite clear that I was really struggling physically. And so I went for a full body MRI just to check like my spine and stuff, and that was where they found that I had a big cyst on the left side of my brain. And so they booked in surgery to drain that. And at the same time they took a muscle biopsy from my leg, and they kind of established that I had some type of muscle condition, but they didn't really have a name for it until I was about 12 or 13. And that was when I got the full diagnosis, and was kind of told of what they expected my life to be like. I'm sure we've all had that conversation. It can be quite bleak at times, but I was very determined to prove them very wrong. So it affects every muscle in my body. So even like the little ones in my neck, my swallow, my stomach, heart, everything. So every movement, every function is impacted in some way for me. Um, I'd say my biggest struggle is definitely like my stomach and nutrition, and also my heart. So if ever I say to someone, "Oh, I don't feel great today," it's always going to be linked to one of them, which can be quite frustrating at times because I'd say they're quite difficult to manage. I am on different medications for them, but they just kind of do what they want, my body. But my mobility is also affected. So my legs, my arms, my neck, everywhere. It's quite weak. I use a wheelchair for long distances, but I toddle about inside around the house. And yeah, I feel like that's a quick summary tied up in a nice little bow.
Fair play to you. I know it's not always easy to kind of dive into all the struggles that you go through. But no, that was a really good summary because I could kind of relate to only a little bit of them. My stomach and my heart, I mean, I know LGMD affects your heart, but touch wood, I think my condition maybe not as much. You obviously have a lot more experience with your stomach and your heart, so can you give us a bit more of an insight as to how it is affected? What's the kind of process, how you affected day to day?
So I have gut dysmotility and malabsorption that also goes up to my swallow, so I have like a weakened swallow. So I've always really struggled to tolerate a lot of food. Like it would make me quite ill, so I'd get a lot of stomach pain, I'd feel sick, I'd feel full really quickly. And so I was fitted with a peg when I was about 13, 14, and I tried the milk feeds through my peg, but they all made me really, really unwell, and I was still struggling with malnutrition. And by that point, my swallow was so bad that I was really struggling to get any food in. So, as a last resort, they put me on parental nutrition. So, I've got a central line and I have that 4 nights a week. It's an overnight feed that goes into my heart, and so it bypasses the stomach. And so that is how I get my big bulk of nutrition. But over the years, I've built up my tolerance for food, and so I can eat, but I eat like a little and often, and I can't go hours and hours without food because I get real extreme hunger. I get like hunger pain, I feel sick. It's not fun. So every couple of hours, I mean, sometimes even on my podcast, I might have to like grab a little biscuit or something. Like I'm always having to kind of keep the stomach working in some form. But then from a heart perspective, I have cardiomyopathy. Every day I get some type of flutter or I get a bit puffed out. I feel quite fatigued. I sometimes get like a funny rhythm and like palpitations. I am on a beta blocker for it, but because of my absorption problems, I don't absorb like all of the beta blocker, which is why some of them still sneak through. It's not always easy to manage. I think I don't really like getting them when I'm on my own at home. Like I find it quite scary, which is something that I'm trying to build up and work on. But when you're home alone and nobody's like in a near distance to you and you're feeling unwell from a heart perspective, it is quite scary and daunting. But I'm very lucky that I've got a lot of support around me.
And I suppose you're maybe used to having these, so you kind of know what to do in those situations.
Yeah, I think I'm quite good at recognising when it's uncomfortable but okay, but when it's something that I need to maybe raise with someone and be like, oh, don't feel too good at the minute.
So if you did have those kind of palpitations or irregular rhythms, what would be your kind of, okay, this is what I need to do?
Always lie down. So
Okay.
definitely lie down. Because it takes some of the pressure off your heart. Sometimes I might have a little bit extra of my beta blocker if it's like really not settling. If it was really, really not okay, I would know to probably ring for an ambulance.
But it sounds like you know your body really well. These conditions kind of do require us tuning into our bodies a lot, and to know, I mean, you said yourself, you know that you need to eat quite, little and often,
Mhm.
because that's what's best for your body, that's how you digest it the best. How do you find maybe going out if your friends want to go out for a meal or something like that? How do you navigate those situations?
So a few years ago, that used to be like my worst nightmare when I couldn't eat anything or when I was relearning to eat because I just didn't feel very comfortable. But over the years, I've got more confident around eating around people. And so I quite enjoy going out for food now. It is a little bit trickier for me. So I'm a slow eater and I'm not very good at talking when I eat because obviously like I'm concentrating on chewing it properly and then getting it down. But all of my friends, like they know me so well now, so they kind of just let me eat my food in peace and then chat like around me or just ask me like questions where I just need to nod, not really respond.
That's really good. It's good that you have friends that understand you and you're still part of the conversation. You're just doing your
I'm
own
still
thing.
listening. I'm just
Yeah.
not like integrating much. Yeah.
I think in those situations, friends who maybe don't understand the condition could easily just not want to educate themselves and isolate themselves from needing to learn about these kind of situations. But it's good that they are willing to understand you and kind of tailor their situations around you. So that's good.
Oh God, yeah. Like it's so important. I mean, you all know from your own experiences, it's so important to have people in your life that are patient and approach things with understanding and empathy, because then they're willing to make adjustments for you.
Yeah, and it doesn't make you feel like a burden then. You're
No,
just one of them, you know?
exactly, absolutely.
Amazing. So I'm just so curious because I suppose because I don't have this experience, I'm really eager to learn about the kind of overnight feeds.
hmm
Um, what is it? What does it entail? Where do you get the food? Like how is it made, I guess?
So I have it delivered once a week by my local hospital, and it's kept in a medical fridge in my garage.
Mm,
I put it I attach myself to it. I'm fully independent. It's a sterile procedure. I think I did on my Instagram. I think I've got a little reel that shows the step by step procedure because it is a little bit tricky at first, but once you've mastered it, it's like second nature. And it runs overnight for about 10 hours for me. So I just have it when I go to sleep, and it goes in my central line, goes in my heart, and is then pumped around my body, so bypasses the stomach.
wow, that's so
I know it's a
interesting.
really cool thing. Like I'd never heard of it before I started it, but it's a very cool medical invention. Whoever thought of that is really like a little genius.
Honestly, it's fascinating and yeah, I mean, that's what's keeping you going, right? You know, so it's pretty important.
Yeah, that's the only thing that keeps me alive, really, because the food that I get in is not enough to sustain myself at all. And
Wow.
the feed, I always feel a bit unwell after it. It's quite heavy on your body because there's a lot of sugar in it. So your sugars can be a bit unstable like the next day. So the best way I can describe it is when I've had it the next day, it's almost like a little hangover. Like I'm a bit rough and a bit headache and I won't have slept very well. So everything's a bit more irritated and flary.
Mm.
But I respect that I need it. I think it could be a bit of a hard battle at times when the thing that you really need and keeps you well is also the thing that sometimes feels like it's poisoning you and making you unwell. But I've been on it long enough now to that I've kind of worked through that. My perspective on it is obviously I don't love it. I'd love to not be on it, but I know I need it and it keeps me well and lets me live my life, and so it's kind of worth that uncomfortable bit.
Mm. Yeah, it's important to have a good relationship with things that you may not want but you need, right? It's kind of
Absolutely.
like just the condition in general. I'm just like, well, if we're going to have this condition, if I'm going to worsen over time, I may as well accept it and not let it kind of defeat me and take
hmm
over my life. And, you know, eventually, if I try to be in denial or ignore it down the road, I might suffer those consequences. So I may as well try and build a good relationship with it from the start, you
Oh
know?
god, yeah. I was really stubborn when I was first diagnosed, and I wouldn't accept anything. Like I wouldn't accept my wheelchair. And I look back and I feel so sorry for that time because I made myself really unwell. Like I should have used my chair a lot sooner. I literally used to walk until my legs would conk out and I'd get stuck places, and I just really battered my body, and I kind of just got to a point where I was like, just accept the help. Like it's gonna make your life more comfortable. You don't need to suffer like this just because you're worried about looking a certain way or what other people think. Like you need to do what's best for your health.
Definitely. And it's all about kind of in moderation. You know, exercise
Mhm.
is good, but exercise that's tailored to you and not trying to wear yourself out, like you said, until your body just can't cope anymore.
Absolutely. We've spoken about it before, but Becca's like Movement Monday things like that honestly has been, I know I've said it before, but has really changed kind of my approach, because I obviously do physio, but a lot of my physio is kind of management or like pain management, hasn't always been about getting stronger, because there's so many things to look at, and our session is really not long enough to tackle everything. So you have to prioritize, and I prioritize the pain. But since I've started doing more tailored movements and exercises, I've really found that I am starting to build a bit more strength, but without pushing myself. Because obviously, from a heart perspective, it's not always easy to exercise comfortably because I get puffed out, or I don't have a lot of stamina, so it's about trying to build up but comfortably.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Beck is amazing, absolute legend, absolute queen. If you don't already follow her, I will be tagging her Instagram below. Even though she's not on this episode, she
Yeah,
deserves the shout
I
out.
know, we're just randomly shouting her out in our episodes.
No, she deserves it. She's amazing, and she's Australian, so that's like extra bonus points, you know.
It,
So your type is 1B, whereas I'm 2I. So I have a recessive type and you have a dominant type. It's to do with the genes, so it's
mhm,
dominant gene and recessive gene. But I know with my condition, you can get an early onset or a late onset. So the early onset is like you're affected pretty much from when you're like a baby or a toddler. But I
mhm.
have the late onset, so I got symptoms through my teens instead.
When I've spoken to people that have had like a later onset, I think it can be a bit trickier, because you're used to a certain way, and then your body changes quite quickly. Whereas for me, like, if there's something I've not been able to do, I've kind of nearly always not been able to do it, or
Okay.
it's always been a struggle. So I feel like for me, mentally, that was maybe a little bit easier to accept, if that makes sense, because
Mm.
I've always been this way and affected. I've not really known any different.
Yeah, in some ways, it's quite nice to have that stability of knowing what your limits are and what you can and can't do.
hmm Definitely. I think even when you've always been affected, as you know, like with any type of muscular dystrophy, the older you get, the more like you kind of lose and the weaker you get. So whenever I speak to people in the community, it's always the common thing that keeps cropping up, is that managing that change as
Mm.
you go on, and adapting to your new normal, as people say.
Yeah, something that's really helped me through that though is the LGMD community online. And if someone says like, "Oh guys, like I've just started to notice that this is happening to me, can anyone else relate?" And then so many people would say, "Yeah, no, I completely get
Mhm.
this. This is totally normal, don't worry." So it's quite nice to know that you're not the only one going through it, and if other people have already been experiencing that, they can maybe suggest ways to overcome it or to deal with it in a better way,
Mhm.
maybe.
Absolutely. For a long time, like, I didn't know anybody else with limb-girdle or muscular dystrophy in general, to be honest. And I feel like now, since I've been more open on social media and got into the different groups and mingled more with people from the community, it is nice just to not feel on your own. And I should say, to chat to people that have been there or are going through it, and it's just nice to not feel on your own, I think.
Definitely. It's honestly such a gift. And especially, like you said, when most of us grew up alone in it,
Mhm.
now there's so many people from all across the world, and no amount of conferences could bring together this amount of people.
No. Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, it is truly incredible. And even though it's such a rare condition, I don't feel that it's as rare anymore just because there's so many of us now.
No, I completely get that. I feel like when I was younger, I always felt like I was a bit of an alien, and like, oh my gosh, like where? Because you wouldn't even hear about it on like TV or online. There was just, I never came across anyone, but I feel like now that I've met so many other people with types of limb girdle, I feel like, okay, no, there are actually a lot of us in this same boat.
It is incredible, yeah. moving on from this is quite a nice segue into your podcast, Dystrophy Diaries. Tell us a bit about why you decided to do this, how you came up with the idea.
Do you know what? I really never, ever thought that I would ever do anything like that, or, create an Instagram page about my condition, because I for a long time felt really uncomfortable talking about it because I was dealing with a lot of things. But I sort of just got the idea like a year ago because someone had asked me to go on a medical podcast, and I was just sat there thinking, do you know what, why don't I give it a go and kind of talk about things that I would have liked to have heard? Because I think growing up, when I'd get new symptoms, I'd always feel like, gosh, how am I gonna navigate life with this? How am I gonna go to university with all of these issues? How am I gonna get into a relationship and date normally? And I would have really liked to have met somebody else, or, listened to somebody else who had gone through that and just hear what it was like for them, or even just know that it was possible to do those things with your condition. And so I try and do episodes that I feel raise awareness, but also show lots of other people in similar situations and how they've navigated and achieved lots of really amazing things. But I just try and be the person that I would have quite liked when I was growing up. And I want people to feel safe, and I want people to feel seen and heard, because I know, like, for me personally, sometimes my adjustments or support that I might ask for might look a bit strange. So, as an example, I really struggle with my neck because it's very weak. And sometimes, like on a video call or whatever, I might need to lean back and prop it up with this pillow thing. Now, for someone who doesn't know me, sometimes might look at that and think, "Oh, why is she doing that? That's a bit strange." And I've encountered stuff like that over the years with certain adjustments. Not people being mean about it, but you can always see the cogs turning and feeling like, "Well, why do you need help with that?" And so I wanted to also showcase what different needs people have and what type of help they might need, to try and raise a bit more awareness and get people thinking and approaching things with a bit more empathy, rather than always thinking, oh, well, that's a bit strange. Why do you need that? They might think, oh, well, I heard this, and, approach it with a bit more understanding, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And it is important. It's tiring that we have to be the ones educating people, but
Hmm.
they just won't know otherwise. And I'd rather people know the reason why I do things a certain way than just assume that I'm lazy or just something
Exactly.
else. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was really a big driving force for why I'm also so open on my podcast. Like, I never thought I would divulge a lot of the information that I have done, but I just thought I can't start this podcast and ask other people to come on and be transparent and me not be fully transparent. Like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna just be like, this is me, take it or leave it. And but yeah, that's it.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations anyway on over a year of Dystrophy Diaries.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, your episodes are amazing. I know you don't like compliments, but I will obviously be linking your podcast below. It's nice to be able to chat to another podcaster as well. I just completely relate to you on that. I guess I started my podcast as a way of being the voice that I wish I had growing up. So it's just so incredible to see now, since maybe tapping into the disability community, that there are so many resources now. There's so many accounts online, there's so many podcasts that are disability centered.
Hmm.
There are honestly just like so many resources now that we didn't have anything, and now there's actually options, which is just incredible.
I know. I feel like over the last few years, I've seen so many more resources and like blogs, podcasts, and people talking about their experiences. And it's just so nice to see people, one, feeling comfortable enough that they want to share that, but also that there's so many things that people can go and read and be invested in and just relate to.
Mm. It is amazing. I obviously want to talk about you're married now, which is
Oh, yeah.
amazing. Congratulations.
You're engaged now. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm obviously going to be coming to you for lots of advice when it comes to actually planning the wedding. But I saw that you were training in hydrotherapy for a while to be able to walk down the aisle, which was so
Yeah.
special. Like, guys, if you haven't seen the video, it's tear-jerking.
Oh, yeah.
What was that day like for you as someone with LGMD, just to bring us a bit of hope?
Oh, that's a good question. So, I think when I first got engaged, I always knew that I really wanted to walk down the aisle. There was definitely, when we started looking at venues, there was quite a lot of things I needed to consider. So obviously, I really wanted it to be fully accessible, and I wanted to just stay in the one place. So I didn't want to go from like venue to venue, like to a church, and then for the after bit, like that would have been too exhausting. So I picked somewhere that was really fully accessible, but still really beautiful. And I think that is a really important thing sometimes with accessibility, because sometimes you might go somewhere and they claim it's really accessible, but it looks really medical, and it's not like your dream venue. So I felt really fortunate that I'd found somewhere that kind of ticked both boxes. At the time, my walk was okay, but it was a lot of effort and it wasn't very smooth. And so I kind of approached my old neurophysio, who was recently retired, and was like, look, this is my goal. I want to walk down the aisle comfortably. Because also, a wedding dress, it's really heavy. And that was something that I maybe wasn't prepared for, like when I was going dress shopping.
Oh
Oh my
God,
God.
really?
Yeah, they are.
Oh no.
But don't worry though, because there's lots of options. Like I got one that had a train that came off, so you just use the train to walk down, and then you take it off after. So it wasn't as heavy, but I wasn't really prepared for that. So she suggested we do some hydrotherapy, and it built me up strong enough that I was able to walk down the aisle. But on the day, I really struggle with shoes because I don't have a lot of feeling on the bottom of my feet because I've got neuropathy. And I really need to like grip as I'm walking, like the floor, if that makes sense, because of my balance. And all the shoes, oh, none of them were working. And I thought, well, I've built up my walk. I want it to be showcased at the time. So I bought these really pretty bridal socks and was like, I'm just going to go down in my socks. Like, you couldn't see them anyway. The dress was long. I was like, forget it. Like, it's my wedding day. I'm the bride. I want to be able to walk. So we're doing it in socks. And I think my advice is just you've got to do what you've got to do. You've got to do what's best for you. Don't worry about, oh, it's got to look a certain way. We've got to fit that stereotype. Because honestly, I had the most amazing wedding weekend, but it also worked for me. Like I made little adaptations. I used my wheelchair for a lot of the walking bits, like in between, like the first dance, walking down the aisle, and that allowed me to have the energy to do the really important things, to do the walking, to do the photos, to do the first dance. And if I'd have just gone hell for leather, no chair all day, I wouldn't have been able to do all the really special moments. Um, and I also did have two dresses, and I did that because the second dress was a lot lighter. So that would also be another tip if you use the really heavy special one for down the aisle, and then after you've done your pictures, I then got in the lighter one, and it was perfect.
Wow. That sounds like the most incredible day. I should have been taking notes through all of that. So many good takeaways. Thank you so much for sharing. And it just shows that accessibility can be beautiful, you
Mhm.
know? Like
Absolutely.
adapting things to the way that you want to do it and to something that works for you it's still wonderful. And it's probably something that other people won't notice as much. Like I'm sure no one was thinking, why on earth is she walking down the aisle in
No,
socks?
absolutely. So that's like the key takeaway, isn't it? Like, nobody's bothered like do whatever you need to do for you, absolutely. But yeah, nobody noticed. It was only after when I kind of made a joke about it that people were like, "Oh, didn't even look." You deserve for it to be the magical day that you dream of, and you want to be comfortable. Like you want it to work for you.
Exactly. I'd love to ask you a question that I ask all my interviewees at the end of every episode, which is, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self or anyone that's struggling?
I think when you're young and you start on this journey, you get this really big diagnosis, you get a lot of information, a lot of it quite negative thrown at you in one go. And it can feel really overwhelming. And I think you can wonder, well, how am I gonna live my life with this? How am I gonna navigate it? And that was definitely something I felt at the time and something that really cleared on my mind for many years. But if I could go and speak to my younger self or anybody else in that situation, I'd just try and say that your life doesn't stop because you've got muscular dystrophy. It really doesn't come to a grinding halt and mean that you can't still do everything that you want to do. You can't still go to university, you can't still get your favourite job, date, get married, whatever it may be. There's just a way of doing it that works for you. There's just a way of adapting and finding your own path. I mean, my mum always used to, whenever I'd be upset about thinking, God, how am I ever going to do this? How am I ever going to learn to drive? My mum always used to say, you're just taking the scenic route in life. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. And that was always something that really kind of stuck with me. Of even if, you get knocked down or you have a little detour, you can still reach your final destination, your final goal.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That's literally like the perfect ending. Such a nice, like, positive note to finish on. And you are such an incredible woman. You go through so many things that people just wouldn't even know about. Just so many little things, little changes day to day that you have to do that maybe you're used to by now, but not many people could deal with that and be able to pick themselves up. And I think what you're doing is just incredible, so keep going.
Oh, thank you, Karis. And honestly, like you're really amazing too. I mean, I know our experiences are quite different, but you also have a lot of challenges to deal with. And I mean, look, you do your full-time job and then you do the podcast. Like you're always grinding on something. I mean, God, I could not put out as much as you do content wise. Oh my God, it's knackering. Like I struggle just to get one episode out a week. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
that's more than me, so fair play. I do every other week, and that's too much for me sometimes.
So honestly, like you're also amazing and smashing it, and you've done really well, and you you give a lot back. I think to the community, like you really want to make a difference and help people, and I think that is really important to have people like you involved and flying the flag for everybody.
Thank you so much. That's so kind. Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? To just
Yeah,
bring everyone together and bring some hope, isn't it?
absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming onto Unbalanced. Finally, can't believe we've
Uh,
finally done it.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, I feel like it's gone really quick. That was such a nice little chat.
It was so lovely. Thank you guys so much for listening today. If you did enjoy this episode, don't forget to like this episode if you're watching on YouTube, to rate the podcast 5 stars on your favourite podcast platform, and to follow the podcast so that you don't miss the next episode. Thank you so much to Cure LGMD2Y for sponsoring this podcast as always, and I will see you guys in another couple weeks. Bye!